everyone, Amy and Doug from Plants for Human Health Institute. Bet you're wondering what we're going to do today. Well, if any of you have ever seen any of our work with school gardens, you know how much we love growing sweet potatoes in the school garden. They are a fan favorite.
Yes.
So in order to grow sweet potatoes, you need sweet potato slips. Doug, what's a sweet potato slip?
The slip is just a sprout that's going to grow off this if you give it the right conditions.
Okay, cool. So I think it's going to be pretty easy to do our own. I've done it a few times before, but today we're going to test a few different methods for growing your own slips. Because you might not have easy access to slips. Sometimes they're hard to find. So let's talk about a couple of different methods. We're going to compare two different methods to see which one's faster, more efficient. Do we get more slips off of one or another? So Doug, why don't you tell us what materials we'll need for the water method?
Well, this one's very inexpensive. We've got toothpicks that we'll need, a jar of some sort with water, and then some sweet potatoes that either we harvested or have purchased at the store that are organic so that they don't have any kind of inhibitor sprayed on them.
Right. A lot of sweet potatoes might have, you've had potatoes that have kind of, we call them gone to seed or gotten sprouts. We typically don't want that for cooking, so a lot of sweet potatoes have been treated. Right. So it's important that you find an organic or one that you've got left over. The soil method really just requires some potting soil or seed starting mix and a container. I've chosen to use a foil roasting pan that I've poked some holes in and have a lid that I will use on the bottom. And we're also going to see if a heating mat makes a difference in this method. So let's get started. Okay, so our first method today is going to be the water method. And as you know, you don't need a lot of materials. And it's just important that you have organic sweet potatoes. Right. So this is very simple, and most of you will find this fairly familiar. So I'm going to take this. I have identified this as my root end. It's a little more narrow, and I found a few little root hairs hanging off of it. Right. You want the root end to go into the jar and the sprout end, which is where you'll see the stems growing off of, to be out of the jar. So basically around halfway or a little above halfway, I'm going to place some toothpicks around, and then we're going to put that in the jar. There we go. We've got it suspended in the jar. There's plenty of it underwater. And now we're going to put this in a sunny window. We're going to change the water about once a week, or if it starts looking cloudy, you can change it before that. But we want to keep it in a sunny, warm spot if possible. There you go. And this should take approximately 6 to 8 weeks for step one. Okay. So let's see how that does.
Do we need to add anything to the water, or be careful about anything?
We don't need to add anything to the water. Tap water is fine. Again, just kind of change it maybe once a week. Right. You want to add fresh water, and you want to make sure the water stays up towards the top. And we'll see how successful we are with this method.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
All right, Doug, you ready for the soil method?
Yeah, let's get this going.
Okay, now this one's really hard.
I know.
Okay, you have to fill a container with soil. Again, I poked holes in the bottom for drainage, and I've got the plastic lid underneath to catch any of that moisture. The one thing I will say is that sometimes these potting mixes or seed starting mixes can be what we call hydrophobic. They want to resist water initially. So make sure that when you're watering it, you're mixing it up really well, because sometimes the water will pool on top and you think it's wet, but down below it's dry. Right. So
take your time.
I like to get in there with my hands and just mix it up like I'm baking cookies or something like that. I like to get my hands in there. Now that we have our soil in containers and our soil is nice and moist, then here comes the hard part. You just take a sweet potato and you nestle it about halfway covered in there. I'm going to make sure that the soil is kind of contacting that sweet potato, and that's it.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna just keep this soil moist, and probably in about a week or so, you will be able to maybe wiggle that sweet potato a little bit and feel some tension because roots are starting to form. And in probably, we hope, 4 to 5 weeks, you'll start to see some sprouts forming on there. So I'm just trying to fit my little sweet potatoes in here however I can. So there's mine.
Here we go.
All right. right.
All right.
Now, we are going to compare with and without a seed mat, a heat mat,
Right,
basically,
yeah.
to keep the roots in the soil warm. So,
Right.
what do you think, Doug? Do you think it's going to do better with that or not?
I think the warmer soil will produce more quickly.
Okay, well, we'll check it out.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's been about 4 weeks since we started our sweet potato experiment, so let's check in and see how we're doing. We're going to start off with checking our sweet potatoes that we put in water. So here I have this one, and if you can see, we've already got roots started, several little root hairs, and there is a teeny tiny little bud starting on the tip there. You can see it, but not a lot of activity. Here, again, we've got a big long root, and I can see a little bit of a sprout starting right around there. You can see that little sprout starting. And then this one, we really only have a small root down here. This root was there when we put it in. We've got one small root starting right down here, but not a lot in this. So we can see some progress over the past 4 weeks for this, but not seeing anything great. Now here, you can see this is the ones we put in soil and did not use a heat mat. If I try to wiggle, I can feel that they have formed roots. This one not quite as much, but if I take it out, I can see a few roots starting, but not really a whole lot over here, and I don't have any sprouts yet. And this is again the ones in soil that did not have a heat mat. But if we move over to this one, oh my goodness. This all happened, we planted these on a Thursday, this all happened this past weekend. When I checked on Thursday, I saw maybe the tiniest little bit of evidence, but this just sprang up over the weekend. And we have a ton of sprouts starting. You can see this one is probably about 15 inches long already. And there must be 30 sprouts. Each potato has sprouts on it already. Remember, the only difference between this one and this one, we use the same soil, sweet potatoes harvested from the same crop. Only difference is that this one right here, we are putting on a heat mat that keeps the soil temp at about 70 degrees. Now, once these sprouts get just a little bit bigger right here, once they get about this long, or maybe not even quite this long, about half as long as this, then we will be able to pinch those off and start rooting those in water as well. So I'm hoping that maybe by next week we'll be able to go ahead and start putting these in water and start preparing our slips.